Marvel Studios and Sony are being very secretive and quiet on their plans for the future of Spider-Man and all those connecting characters that relate to Spider-Man and Marvel Studios brands. On Sony's side, you have Venom and Morbius and multiple other things in development such as Silk on Amazon. And on Marvel Studios' joint partnership with Sony, you have multiple Spider-Man projects. So let's talk about a crossover that's being teased that I think many of us know is inevitable. By now, I think most of you know that it's sort of become like a running gag on this channel that Morbius is one of my most anticipated films of the year, whichever year it releases in, but it really is. I think most of you understand this because I've expressed how much I love Morbius as a character and how much I fell in love with the whole Spider-Man universe because I started to get into comics that at the time were heavily featuring Morbius when I first moved to the United States. And with everything with the whole vampire stuff sort of moving in a weird direction for Marvel Studios as well, because Blade is obviously going to be fighting vampires, and we have Moon Knight coming, and eventually those two will be teaming up. Morbius is another sort of a big question mark in this giant crossover potential down the road, because when it comes to the likes of the Midnight Suns, for example, Morbius and Blade go together like peanut butter and jelly. Now with this whole shared universe, exchange of characters, whatever the hell is happening with Morbius, we can clearly tell it's part of the Spider-Man universe. I mean, Adrian Toomes is right there, the Vulture is right there, they're addressing that Spider-Man is wanted for murder. It's not the same Spider-Man though, so again, there's so many questions to be asked, and eventually we're gonna get the answers. It's probably all tying into the multiverse, and as part of this hype, the Late Late Show, I didn't say that wrong, it is called The Late Late Show with Reggie Watts, he asked Jared Leto about the upcoming Blade movie, and then he brought it all around to Morbius and saying, are these two going to come together and team up? And Jared Leto said, and I quote, "You know, that is a good question, and I could see that happening in the future. I do. I can see that happening." Now, I'm still of the mindset and on the mindset that the deal is done. Morbius and Venom will retroactively, even though they were shot before the deal with Spider-Man being kept in the MCU, are retroactively going to be made canon. There's plenty of evidence to support that Venom 2 is already going to be canon to the MCU because of some merchandise leaks and all that. So whatever they're doing, it's all going to connect through this bigger multiverse. As Kevin Feige even recently said, whatever's out there, we can use it. So maybe Morbius, not this one directly that we're gonna get, maybe a different version of Morbius pops up in the MCU, still played by Jared Leto, and they do their own thing. They sort of wink and nod to what was done in the movie. Or maybe they just straight outright go, yeah, whatever, it's the same character, it's in the MCU continuity, cool, here you go. But I think inevitably it is going to happen because of the connection of the two characters. And you don't just have the two most popular vampire characters in all of Marvel stay apart. It just doesn't make sense. It just, again, peanut butter and jelly. Like, that's how close these two are. I just think that we keep getting delays of what the plans are for the future because of all the delays that are happening in Hollywood, and the multiverse is going to factor into all of this. That much is evident. I think everybody can tell that that's the plan, but they can't confirm everything yet because that would be jumping too far ahead. It can't be coincidental that Morbius is connecting to all these MCU things, but it's not going to be in the MCU. It just doesn't make sense. So yeah, Blade, Morbius, team up down the road, probably with Moon Knight as well. It's happening.